Well, welcome to the Business Spotlight series. My name is Heather Frierson, and I'm your host of the Business Spotlight podcast. And today I have Matthew Ostrowski, president and founder of Continental Construction. And he's going to be sharing all about his journey to business ownership, the challenges, best practices, and really just share a sneak peek of what it's like to own and operate a business. So, if this is your first time to the show, you know what to do. Like and subscribe so that you don't miss a notification every time a new show drops, just like this one. Well, here we go, Matthew. Welcome to the show. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you. Great to be here. Thanks for having us.
You're welcome. Well, if you could just set the stage for our audience and share with them just a little bit of background about who you are and about your business.
I am Matthew Ostrowski, as you said. I got started very young in the business with my family, starting building homes from what started as my aunts, my uncles, family members, learned the trade, picked up the trade, mostly out of need, right? Need to build homes, build shelter, kind of like the old settler days. Um, and then, over the years, uh, gaining that knowledge through high school, the trades,
Mhm.
flooring, concrete, framing, roofing, we did everything.
Yeah.
And then, beyond that, then going to college, there was the need to pay the bills, get the bills paid, pay the tuition, pay for the apartment.
Mm.
My brother and I started Continental back then, early 2000, late 90s, out of a need to pay those bills. And then, from there, we just kept growing, the hunger for knowledge, you know,
Yeah.
creating a bigger family of sorts. They weren't just clients, they weren't people that we were building for. They essentially became family.
Mm.
And you know, taking that approach, of talking transparent, telling the truth, laying all the cards on the table. Um, you know, we started that. We paid our way through college. And after college, um, I wanted to learn more than just building homes, right? And being the guy building, I wanted to learn more about the larger industry, commercial, resident, apartments and whatnot. Uh,
Mhm.
So then out of that, you know, thirst and hunger for knowledge, um, I signed up with the company, a commercial contractor, in Chicago. And I learned, RFIs, submittals, all the stuff that I didn't know doing the work.
Wow.
Again, step by step building, just first to show up to work, last to leave often. Um, and from there, just kept growing. Eventually
Mm.
people kind of tied me to, hey, this kid's a go-getter. He's
Mm.
he's a hard worker, he's first in, last out. And that just kind of got around word of mouth. And
Yeah.
eventually found myself then going to Colorado, working with another general contractor developer, not just on the construction end, now moving and learning more to the developing aspect. Um, and just again, continuing to grow. Um, again, picking up lessons, uh, what I liked, what I didn't like about
Mhm.
construction, what I thought could use improvement, and talking to owners, talking to the developers, and the people that moved into the buildings. What do you like?
Oh,
What do you
yeah.
not like? So,
What'd you learn along the way?
um, mostly like, I listen to people vent and
Sure.
everybody, people, even with good experiences, they don't really highlight the good experiences. Most
Hmm.
people, they like to vent. They like to
Right.
tell you what they don't like and tell you what could be better. So, over the years, I always, had the things that I didn't like, and my dad always told me, if I vented to him about what I didn't like about my superior or my boss, he said,
Hmm.
Matthew, remember what you don't like, so when you become the guy or the
Mm,
leader,
mm,
you don't treat others the way you didn't like to be treated. So
right.
the biggest
That's so
lesson,
good.
yeah, the biggest lesson that I learned there was, you know, focus on focus on what they don't like, focus on what you don't like, and try to be different than, be better than.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
really good advice for sure. You mentioned that it started in the early 2000s, so you're celebrating 25 years plus more in business.
Oh, yes.
Congratulations. Is it
Thank you.
still a family-owned business, you and your brother, or how has that
Yeah,
grown?
well, family is everything to me. So it's always, um, I'm the owner. My brother stepped away for a little while. He pursued, uh, an interest in law enforcement in
Okay.
2010, 2011, 2012. So it's been me, and I've expanded since I moved from Chicago to Colorado. Now I'm in Austin. So
Right.
my focus is kind of the Central Texas region, Austin area, Georgetown. I'll go to San Antonio or Dallas, but
Mhm.
um, I'll go anywhere that the right partner or the right client that I've met, if they have the need or they need the help, um, I'm going to follow them. And
Yeah.
and and you know, I haven't really sought out more clients or more customers. I find that I focus on the dozen clients that I have, and
Mhm.
I put my effort there, and um, you know, since the early 2000s till now, we've had the .com, we've had the real estate in 2000, from
Mhm.
2006 to 2009, that
Mhm.
recession. We're always having these recessions,
Yeah.
these slowdowns, and what I found is the people that you work with, when you really focus on them, even in the slow times, you'll never
Mm.
find that shortage of people calling you, um,
That's so good.
from
That's
those
so true.
referrals. So, um,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
true. It's very true. So, what does your team look like these days? Now that your brother's gone, you obviously have a team. Let's dive into that a little bit.
So I've got my right hand, Jason. He's I started working with him back in 2015, and he's really proven to be, equal work ethic. He works hard, he works long hours. He's got a real can-do spirit, faced with, almost impossible odds. He's always
Mhm.
pulled through. Um, I've got Renee and I've got a team of young workers, that they might not have all the knowledge of the 10 years or the 15 years of experience, but they've got the heart and they've got the
Mhm.
ethic. What I found that works for me is, not relying on that 10 years of experience.
Mm.
It's, do they have the heart? Do they have the heart
Yeah.
to learn? And if they do, if they have that and they have the right attitude, I can teach them anything. So
Yeah.
my team is small, but based on the workload and based on the project, I'll find people within my circle that I already have,
Mm.
that will help me with whatever project that I have, whatever size. Uh,
Yeah.
so
So that's interesting to me always when I hear different businesses like yours or similar, how you have to make those decisions of who's on staff and who's contract. Um, how do you make those differentiations? I'm sure contracts maybe are people that you're working, doing, using the hands for whatever you're building, but what about the in-house? How do you determine that?
well, in-house, you want that again is a balance. There's we have an enormous amount of competition in the construction industry, right? From the people that we've all heard of, right? The
Hmm.
Lennars, the bigger firms. Um, but what I've kind of learned working, up the ranks is have a team of people, whether they be 4 or 5 people that you could put on your staff, assistant project managers,
Mhm.
project engineers, that you'll never, they'll always be a part of your team, right?
Yeah.
We've had recessions, the ups and downs, and I've been part of teams where you're let go because the overhead's too much, or they don't have the income to support you. So what I've learned, another lesson that I've learned is have your foundation rather, that if you don't have a job and you're searching for jobs for the next year, you don't have to let them go. You can keep paying them because they've got the heart, they've got the hunger
Hmm.
to
Hmm.
search for those jobs and do what it takes to find that next job. But you might be aware that the construction industry is just, um, when it's good, it's good. And
Hmm.
when the market slows down, or when people don't have the money to spend, or, banks don't want to lend, or they can't lend, like now, that's when you really gotta, you know,
Yeah.
focus on growth, focus on what I can do to make my company better. Um, and really fight through that slow.
Yeah. Well, you say you got to fight through it. What keeps your passion and your interest alive?
Wanting to make the industry better.
Mm.
Right, with construction and a lot of other things, you find people that, they're just in the market to sell,
Mm.
one off. Let me get this job, let me make my check, and let me move on. And what keeps me inspired is just people, like when I tell a story, or when I finish a job, you know, the owners or the developers
Mhm.
learn, and they learn not to make the same mistakes, or subcontractors, they take a little bit of our advice, and they kind of curb their finger pointing and their blaming. So what inspires me is when you see what you're trying to promote and the lessons you're trying to promote, when
Mhm.
you see that in action, and you see subs or owners or clients, um, actually heeding that advice, and it shows me that, hey, the long hours, right? Day nights that just turn into morning working.
Mhm.
But what really just sparks that energy again is seeing somebody actually use
Yeah.
the lessons, and to me, that's just, yeah, that's what I find
Yeah.
the most inspiring, rather. So
Yeah. As a founder, you wear, I'm sure, so many hats, from anything from marketing to doing the building and finances. What would you say it's how many hours do you spend working in the business versus on the business?
Um, well, it varies from project to project, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
different projects, different structures have their own um challenges, and then I get forced to focus less on the business and more on the project, getting pulled
Mm-hmm.
into the weeds, if you will. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but sometimes it could be, you know, a 16-hour day, right? Where you're just in the weeds, and you just have to focus on crossing that finish line. And it's a difficult project, but other times where my team is really picking up and learning so much, that's actually allowing me to focus on the business, and
Yeah.
what do I do to make the business better? How do I really get the lessons that I want to teach out there, and you know, um, really focus on the legacy of Continental,
Mm-hmm.
or these other companies that I've created beyond Continental.
Yeah.
But out of need, to help, I want these to grow their own, just roll on their own, and I want the people that I've worked with now to be able to take this Continental, and just more of like an employee owned type.
Mm. Yeah.
Right
How
now, lately I've been focused, having more time to focus on the business, which is great. And I've got people that I trust, like Jason and Renee and the other people that I've worked with for the last 10 years or more that
Mm-hmm.
really know my mission, know the positive role, the realistic role, being transparent, and they've adopted it themselves,
Yeah,
right? So, um,
it's good.
yeah,
With so many competitors out there, like you mentioned earlier, how do you make Continental stand out and market it differently?
that's a great question. It's really quite challenging to get us because there's just so many competitors out there, bigger and smaller than us. I
Mm-hmm.
think I stand out based on the people that I've done work with, whether it be a custom home or a 22-story building or whatever. I think just how we act, how we respond, how we communicate, how we're not afraid to be vulnerable. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so many people they want to post perfection, right, on
Mm-hmm.
LinkedIn or wherever. They want to say, take a look at this project. It's beautiful. It looks great, and everybody's happy. Well, I stand out by being vulnerable and saying, hey, this project had this problem, but this is how we overcame it. And I create that relationship, that family centric relationship to where the clients that I built buildings with in 2002, 2009, 2006, they call me from Illinois or Colorado, asking me
Wow.
to consult them or to help them because because they know they can trust me and they know that my team will feed it to them straight.
Yeah.
Not in a finger pointing away, but this is where we are. Let's
Mm-hmm.
we can look at how we got here, but when we're trying to get to the finish line on a student housing project, you have to be
Mm.
done on that day. There's no
Wow. Yeah.
excuses. There's monies that you have to pay if 100 kids can't find their room, you got to get
Ah,
hotels for 100 kids. You've got to get busing for 100 kids. So
wow.
more or less, I focus on this is where we are. How do we finish this job? And,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
so many times people will say, other people, my competition will say, hey, it's not my fault. It's this guy's fault. Or,
Mm.
or it's this guy's fault. This is why it happened. And that doesn't get you any further or any closer to the
Yep.
finish line. You're
True.
not moving forward if you're standing still. And if you're
No.
or much worse, if you're looking back to and complaining, you're moving backward. So
Yeah.
I think what makes us just different is we don't take part in the complaining. We focus on first and foremost getting the building open, making the residents happy.
Mm-hmm.
And then once we get done, we could say, okay, what
Yeah.
happened? And
Right.
how can I make sure that as an owner or as a developer, this doesn't happen to you again on your other projects? So
Mm-hmm.
um, you
Yeah.
know, you know, and some people, we're not the right fit for everybody. Some
Yeah.
people, and you just have to be okay with that. And and when you're not the right fit, just let it go and focus on somebody that is the right fit.
That's really good. I think
Yeah.
that's good advice for many uh types of businesses,
Yes.
right?
Yeah. Oh, I hope
So
so.
yeah, you just gotta let it go sometimes for
Yes.
sure. When you think about Continental Construction and the future, and you could choose, like we talked about earlier, wearing the different hats, where do you see yourself where you want to land and say, this is the seat I want to really make sure I maintain as the business grows?
Well, the seat that I want to maintain is someone overlooking several businesses, right? Whether it be my steel business or Continental Construction as a GC or Continental Construction as a development or a consulting company. I want to, I see myself and I want to be the person that kind of what I've planted the seed and my flower is growing now. I want to be the guy that's just watering the plants as they need the
Mm,
and as a legacy, like I tell the people that I work with, the people that work with me at Continental even, our greatest gift is the amount of people that we can help by doing what we do well. And from a subcontractor market, we can help subs, then subs have subcontractors working for them. Just imagine all the people that we can help
Yeah.
by doing our job well.
Right.
Whether it be feeding or growing or, helping a young individual that I've seen do a scope really well. He's,
Hmm.
whether it be a young kid, but they don't have the knowledge to be able to start a company with the, the W-9 and registering a company, doing the pay-apps. So I teach these kids at the
Hmm.
time how to do it, walk them through on a project. And then I watch these companies that started as just a kid installing an outlet to now he's got $1 million company, and it's rewarding. Again, as an individual now, having been in the industry for a relatively young, small number of years, but just seeing the amount
Hmm.
of people that we can help and the people growing, it's just, it makes you feel good. And
Yeah.
yeah, so.
That's awesome. You mentioned a couple of times that you have several different businesses. Can you walk us through those really quick of what they do? Sounds like they're all have the name Continental in them.
No, the business that I start, that I create stem from just listening to the clients. So if I'm working with an owner that they have a certain budget, whether it be $6 million or whatever, and their budget is just, they're not there, and they can't get the lending, the project's not feasible, and then I'll see like, you know what, should cost this, but he's got 3 bids at this, steel, for example. And then I'll say, well, I know that I can buy the material for this, I can install it for this, because I know the people that actually install it. So then I'll just create an entity to make that project viable, right? So
Yeah.
if he had he was over budget by $1 million, and 800,000 of that was from the steel scope. And then I said, oh, well, you know what, I can save $500,000 by doing it, creating my own entity. And
Mm.
so I start from the need of just by listening and hearing the problems that they're having and how I can help.
Yeah. That's very creative.
Yeah, so I started a couple like that, and at the end of the day, it helps the client, helps the owner. But it also, by diversifying like an investment, when
Hmm.
things slow down from a GC perspective, there's not a
Hmm.
lot of jobs from the general contracting perspective. I could kind of pivot and say, let me focus on just concrete or just steel or
Yeah.
roofing. So not only does it help the, the developer or the owner, it helps me in the long run because
Hmm.
I've diversified enough that if this arm takes a hit, this
Hmm.
other arm keeps everything moving forward.
Got
So
other streams of income.
yes, yes.
Yeah. It's really good.
It all comes from a need of, from the need of paying the bills and just having been through so many difficult times, right? With all the recessions and, in Michigan, things were tough through college and there's scarcity of work. And then it's just out of that need, you think of, okay, how can I use what I know
Hmm.
and survive? And then
Right.
it goes from surviving to thriving when the industry's good. And then it'll just kind of go, learn, survive, thrive, then survive again, then learn more. So it's a constant cycle of
Yeah.
all that. And I think, you know, at the end of the day, just putting that effort in and knowing that
Yeah.
not everything's gonna be roses and daisies, but um, knowing that you've got to work harder than your
Yeah.
competition. You gotta figure the next, where is the industry going, and how can I stay ahead of this? Because when you're ahead of
Hmm.
it, it just, you've got that many more years or that many more months of growth.
Hmm.
There's a Malcolm Gladwell wrote a book, and he talked about 10,000 hours, needing 10,000 hours to become
Mm-hmm.
that professional. Well, I want to get my 10,000 hours of experience like Bill Gates, right? Or Steve Jobs before the rest of the industry figures out, you know, this is where it went. I want to be ahead of them. And I want to
Yeah.
be, the more I can be ahead of them, the more, secure I am. And again, it's about staying ahead of the curve. So
Yeah, absolutely. I'm writing that down. Be ahead of the curve. So smart. Yeah. Well, I just admire your tenacity and just like you said, sir, not just thriving, but surviving market trends that the housing industry and apartments and everything that you do, um, you've had to go through because honestly, only the good leaders are the ones that survived and continue to thrive through that. So thank you for sharing your stories or anything you want to share before we get to some fun rapid fire questions.
just again, um, all I can say is just be transparent, listen.
Hmm.
It took me a long time to listen to, I was always the guy that, you know, did everything myself and
Mm,
lost his faith in people. So I always just wanted to be better and
yeah.
now it's more or less listen to people, give them what they want and realize like we're more with the team, more
Hmm.
with Jason and Renee and Oscar and the people that surround me than I ever am alone. It takes
Yeah.
it takes a lot to realize that, even though 10 years ago I thought I didn't need anybody, it takes that mind to realize, yes, you can do it all alone, but you'll work harder and you won't get as far
Right.
as you will with the team. So
That's very true. Very true. I think that's advice we all can take for sure. Yeah. Well, are you ready to have some fun and do some rapid fire questions?
absolutely, Heather.
All right, let's do it. Okay. What would you say is the key to success for you?
Um, Work ethic.
Mm, yeah, you've shown a lot of that through this for sure. What would you say is the one piece of advice that you would give to other business owners and founders like yourself?
Listen,
Mm,
listen to people vent. Try not to vent too much. But listen to the venting and figure out, what are they not happy with and figure out
mhm.
how as a business owner, what you can do to help them or help other people make
Yeah,
it better. So, and you only get that by listening and not interrupting and, thinking that you know the answer to everything. Because only by listening can you uh,
yeah,
find other opportunities. So
true. All right, book or podcast, what are you reading or listening to right now?
I am listening to, well, I listen to everything. I listen to um, um, nonfiction and fiction, but I just finished a book called Remarkably Bright Creatures, which is fiction, but um, it just depends. I listen to everything. I go through audiobooks like I do a lot of
Yeah.
driving, so I pop an audiobook in and so I go through those pretty quick. But I listen to, nonfiction like Lewis and Clark
Oh,
or
uh-huh.
I like books like Devil in the White City. Eric Larson is
Mm,
a good
mm,
author that I kind of go to. But I
it's good.
yeah, I'll start listening or start reading a lot of books and if the wonderful thing about books and audiobooks is if it doesn't suit you, you just
Turn it off.
you turn it off, yeah, or
That's
close the
right.
book.
It's good.
It's like Facebook or LinkedIn. If you don't like a post, you don't
Hmm.
have to get sucked in. Just keep scrolling, and
Yeah,
you know.
it's
Anyway,
good. Yeah, I agree. I've just got into audiobooks myself. So,
what do you what,
okay.
what do you listen to?
Oh, good question. Well, I listen to a lot of podcasts in the car, a lot of leadership podcasts from, well, and one podcast that I really love that really was the reason why I do this is How I Built This by Guy Raz. Has a lot of founder and entrepreneur stories. Listen to Craig Rochelle has a great leadership podcast. And so those are those two. And I would say ours, of course.
Right, right. Have you ever listened or read a book called Raving Fans?
I've heard of that, but I haven't read it. No.
Go ahead and I read that long ago. You know, real long ago now, early 2000s. But it's about being available. You mentioned, what are our strengths? And I think being available to,
Mm,
picking up the phone at, 5 o'clock or on a Saturday or a
mhm.
Sunday, and just being available for the people that you work with and the people that you work for. I think that's kind of gives us a leg up. But
Yeah,
you want to create raving fans in your clients where they,
good.
they whether they're telling a story to their new GCs or whatever, they always come back to you because you've created a raving fan,
Mhm.
right? So if I
That's good.
could recommend a book to you, Heather,
Yes.
pick that up and um, I'm not receiving any royalties for that recommendation. Um, but it's a
I
good
like
book.
it. I wrote it down, the book Raving Fans. I have heard of that. So maybe today this was a, confirmation that it's time I read it.
It's a quick read. It's not a long book. It's just a quick read with a good message. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. I'll get it. I'll for sure get it. Good old Amazon. All right. This is the last rapid fire question and one of my favorites. And it's this. If you had a little bit of magic dust and could sprinkle it anywhere in your business, where would you sprinkle it?
Well, obviously, you ask any business owner that question, they're gonna say, you know, give the economy around you some want to build. Give the lender some money to lend. Um,
Yes.
but you know, yeah, that's kind of just have people see the longer term, uh,
Hmm.
see what the problem is and figure out, you know, the best route to go is when times are tough. You hear people say buy the dip, invest
Mm,
when times are down, when you don't have work, that's the best time to uh invest in your company because
mm,
when times are slow, you can teach. But when times are
mm,
really going really well, you don't have the time that we have now to invest.
mm.
Um,
That's good.
yeah, a little bit of sprinkle some magic fairy dust on the banks and the lenders and the
Thanks.
developers. Give them the desire to hire and start more buildings.
I like it. That's good. That's an honest answer for sure. All right, before we get to the final question of the day, share with everyone how they can follow you or hire you.
LinkedIn is always good. We've got a website, www.myccon.com, myccon.com. Um, or you can, through LinkedIn or Facebook. We're on Facebook, we're on
Okay.
Instagram. Um, but you could
Cool.
drop me emails or messages on any of those platforms. And we'll see if
Awesome.
we can't start a long-term relationship.
That's right. And if anyone of you listening, reach out through LinkedIn, be sure you let them know that you heard them on the podcast for sure. Right?
Yeah, right, absolutely.
All right. Final question of the day, which is my absolute favorite question. And it's this. What is inspiring you today, Matthew?
What inspires me are people like you.
Oh.
People that want to find people that want to improve the industry and
Mm,
not just dwell in what's wrong with today, but figuring out how to make tomorrow better. Not just
yeah.
for us, but for people down the road and that'll continue to inspire me. Build better, be smarter.
I love that answer. Thank you so much for sharing. I really enjoyed this conversation. And I think that you really gave all of us things to think about and how you are just so transparent and vulnerable and have thrived all of these years in an industry that is not always doable. So thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. Well, I just want to encourage everybody, of course, to like and subscribe so that you don't miss a notification every time a new show drops, just like this one. And thanks for joining us today. And a special thank you again to you, Matthew. It was such a pleasure.
Thank you, Heather.
Bye bye, y'all.